Everyone, and welcome back. Okay, let's just jump right into it because there is such a fascinating story playing out in tech right now. It's kind of like an economic mystery that starts with this huge AI revolution we're all seeing, but it ends with the price you're going to pay for your next smartphone.
So let's get right to the heart of it. This is the big question. We all see how incredible generative AI is, right? But what you might not see is that it comes with this hidden cost that's sending shockwaves through the entire tech supply chain. And yeah, it is about to hit your wallet.
And the answer, the reason for all this, is a classic story of supply and demand. Except this time, it's a massive, worldwide fight. Not for oil, not for gold, but for one very specific, super high-tech resource that has suddenly become the most important thing in the entire digital world.
All right, so let's get into part one of our story, the AI boom side effect. Because while we're all, totally amazed by what AI can do, there's this huge disruption happening right under our noses. Here's the bottom line. The same handful of companies that make the memory for our laptops and our phones, they're now shifting their production lines to feed the absolutely insatiable hunger of AI. And this isn't just some temporary hiccup. No, this is a fundamental structural shift, creating a deliberate shortage of the regular memory chips we all rely on. So how exactly is this happening? How can one thing cause a shortage of another? Well, let's dive into our next section and see how this new technology is literally cannibalizing the memory supply.
So meet the main character of our story, HBM, or High Bandwidth Memory. This is the super fast, super powerful memory that makes things like ChatGPT possible. But here's the key. It's not just a faster version of the memory in your laptop, it's a whole new way of building it. They take standard memory chips, DRAM, and they stack them vertically like a tiny skyscraper.
Now this slide, this one number explains everything. To get the same amount of memory, HBM eats up 3 times more of the raw manufacturing material, these things called silicon wafers, than standard memory. 3 times. So why is it so inefficient? Why is it such a resource hog? Well, it really comes down to 3 things. First, the individual chips themselves are just physically bigger to handle all that stacking. Second, it's a way more complicated process, so the success rate, what the industry calls yield, is a lot lower. You get more duds. And third, every single one of these HBM stacks needs its own little logic chip at the bottom to run the whole show, and that eats up even more space.
And this all leads us to the key concept of this whole explainer: wafer cannibalization. You have to think about it like this. There's only so much factory capacity in the world. So every silicon wafer that gets used to make HBM for an AI server is a wafer that cannot be used to make memory for your phone or your PC. It is a true zero-sum game.
Okay, so this cannibalization has some massive consequences. It has basically split the entire global memory market in 2. It's really become a tale of the haves and the have-nots.
And let's be super clear, this is not an accident. The big memory suppliers, they figured out they can make way more money from HBM. So they're creating what's called a structural scarcity. They are deliberately choking off the supply of standard memory to squeeze every last drop of profit out of this AI gold rush.
This chart just lays it out perfectly. On the AI side, demand is inelastic. That means the big guys like Google and Meta, they have to buy it no matter the cost. But for the regular memory in our PCs and phones, we, the customers, are price sensitive. So who gets top priority? The AI hyperscalers. Everyone else? They get the leftovers.
And how bad is it really? Well, companies like Dell, HP, even Apple are now in a situation called allocation. It means they put in a huge order for memory chips, and the suppliers just come back and say, yeah, you can have 30 to 50% of that. The rest, it's already been sold for AI.
And the result of this whole strategy, the profits are just staggering. For the first time in years, the profit margins for memory makers like Samsung and SK Hynix are actually on track to be higher than TSMC's, and TSMC is legendary for its profitability. I mean, look at this. Some estimates say the margin on that scarce legacy memory could hit 70%. That's a number we haven't seen in this industry for maybe 30 years.
Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, I've seen this movie before, right? The tech world is famous for these huge boom and bust cycles. But as we're about to see, there are a few really good reasons why this time it might actually be different. So let's look back at the 1995 PC Supercycle, kicked off by Windows 95. Back then, it was a total free-for-all. Tons of companies jumped in, they all built way too many factories, and the whole market crashed. Today, it's a 3-firm oligopoly. Just 3 companies control everything.
And the sheer difficulty of making HBM is like a giant wall that keeps anyone else from getting in, which lets them keep a tight grip on supply.
Okay, or how about the more recent 2017 cloud supercycle? That whole boom was fueled by phantom demand. The cloud companies got spooked, they overordered a ton of chips, and then suddenly canceled everything, crashing the market. This cycle is different. The demand is real, and what's more, it's locked in with these long-term, non-cancelable contracts called take-or-pay. The AI giants are legally on the hook to buy what they've ordered. That makes this boom way, way more solid.
So this cycle looks a whole lot stronger and more controlled than anything we've seen in the past. But here's the twist. It's leading the entire industry toward this massive synchronized cliffhanger, and it's all set to go down in the year 2027.
So for the next couple of years, the memory makers are just going to milk this shortage for all it's worth. They're delaying new factories and maximizing profit. But then, look at 2027. The floodgates just swing wide open. SK Hynix, Samsung, Micron, they are all scheduled to bring massive new factories online at almost the exact same time.
And this is where this classic supply chain idea called the bullwhip effect comes into play. The concept is actually really simple. You know how a tiny flick of your wrist can create that huge loud crack at the end of a whip? It's the same idea. A small change in demand way down at the consumer level can cause these huge, wild swings in production way up the supply chain.
And that sets up two enormous risks for 2027. First, if all that new supply hits the market at the same time, you could have a catastrophic supply glut that just crashes prices. And second, 2027 is the year the AI boom has its show me the money moment. If all these billions of dollars in AI investments don't start showing a real profit, the big tech giants could just slam on the spending brakes, pulling the rug out from under the entire market.
So here's what it all comes down to. The AI memory boom is absolutely real. It's changing the entire tech landscape. But by coordinating all their plans so tightly, the memory giants are making this huge collective bet on the future. And the big question we're left with is this. Are they the masters of a new, smarter, more profitable cycle? Or are they flying just a little too close to the sun, setting themselves up for an absolutely epic fall?